People say miracles arrive when you least expect them, but Elias Moreau learned something different. He learned that miracles often come only after you stop waiting for them. The night his old radio finally went silent, crackling once and then dying, Elias sat alone in his small rented room in northern Ontario, listening to the sound of his own breathing. He had believed that radio was lucky. It had belonged to his father, a man who used to say that one day something big would happen to their family, that fate was only late, not absent. Elias had waited for that promise to come true his whole life. That night, when the radio died, he felt as if the last excuse for waiting died with it. Elias grew up in a town so small it barely showed on maps, where winters stretched long and people measured life by routines rather than dreams. His mother worked double shifts at a nursing home, his father fixed engines until his hands shook, and every evening they ate dinner under a flickering light while the radio played stories of faraway cities and successful lives. Elias listened closely. He imagined those voices were talking directly to him, that one day a miracle would pull him out of that place without him having to risk anything. When his father passed away suddenly, Elias clung even harder to the idea of a miracle. He told himself that suffering meant destiny was preparing something special. He told himself to wait. Years passed quietly. He finished school without direction, worked small jobs, quit them when they became uncomfortable, and always explained his stillness with the same sentence, "I am waiting for the right moment." That sentence felt wise at first. It sounded patient and thoughtful. But slowly, it began to rot. Every birthday came and went like a soft warning. Every mirror showed him a man who looked capable but tired, as if he were holding his breath year after year. Elias told himself he was unlucky. He blamed timing, people, circumstances, and even fate. He prayed for signs. He asked for miracles. But nothing moved. One winter morning, after a night of heavy snow, Elias slipped on ice outside the grocery store and fell hard. He lay there staring up at the gray sky while strangers rushed past. Some glanced at him, some apologized without stopping, and one old woman finally helped him up. She looked him straight in the eyes and said something that stayed with him longer than the bruise on his back. She said, "Young man, the ground won't move for you. You have to learn how to stand." That was all. She walked away as if she had said nothing important. But Elias felt something crack open inside him. Not pain, not anger, just clarity. He realized he had been lying on the ground of his life waiting for someone or something to lift him. That evening, Elias sat in his room without the radio, without music, without noise. He let silence speak. He thought about his father's words and understood them differently for the first time. Maybe his father did not mean that fate would arrive like a gift. Maybe he meant that life would test them until they decided to act. Elias felt fear rise in his chest, thick and heavy, but beneath it was something new, a quiet determination. He decided to stop waiting. He did not know what miracle looked like, but he knew what action did. The next day, he did something small but terrifying. He applied for a job he believed he was not good enough for. It was a warehouse position in a nearby city, physically demanding and unfamiliar. He almost closed the application page 3 times. But he remembered the woman on the ice. He pressed submit. His hands shook. He felt foolish for expecting anything. But 2 weeks later, he received a call. He was hired. That was not a miracle. It was uncomfortable. It required him to wait before sunrise, travel long distances, and face supervisors who did not care about his excuses. But each day he came home exhausted and strangely alive. Work did not change his life overnight. He still struggled. He still doubted himself. He still felt small among louder, more confident people. But something else was happening. Elias was learning that movement creates momentum. He started saving small amounts of money. He started reading at night instead of replaying regrets. He began writing thoughts in a notebook, not dreams, but plans. They were simple and imperfect, but they were real. He noticed how his mind changed when he focused on effort instead of hope alone. He noticed how self-respect grew when he kept promises to himself. One evening after work, while walking home through falling snow, Elias passed a community center with lights glowing warmly inside. He almost walked past it, habit pulling him forward. But he stopped. He went in. He discovered free evening classes being offered, including basic business skills and communication. He laughed quietly to himself. He had always said he was not good at speaking, that success required confidence he did not have. But that night, he signed up anyway. Sitting in those classes, stumbling over words, feeling exposed, Elias felt the old fear again. But this time, he stayed. Months passed, and something subtle yet powerful began to shape his destiny. Elias did not become famous. He did not become rich. He did not suddenly escape struggle. But he became reliable. He became disciplined. He became brave in quiet ways. He learned that courage often feels like embarrassment before it feels like pride. One night, after presenting a short idea in class, his voice shaking but steady enough, his instructor nodded and said, "You're improving." That single sentence meant more to Elias than any imagined miracle ever had. Then life tested him again. His mother fell ill, and medical bills began to pile up. Old thoughts returned, whispering that no matter what he did, it would never be enough. That maybe destiny really wasn't fair. That maybe miracles were meant for other people. Elias sat in his room staring at his notebook, feeling the familiar pull of waiting. But this time, he did not surrender. He took on extra shifts. He asked questions. He sought help instead of silence. He learned how to navigate systems he once avoided out of fear. He felt exhausted, but he felt useful. And usefulness gave him strength. One night, while cleaning out a storage room at work, Elias found an old broken radio someone had discarded. He picked it up, smiling at the irony. He brought it home and spent hours trying to fix it, watching tutorials, learning patiently. When it finally crackled back to life, it did not feel lucky. It felt earned. He listened to it quietly, not as a promise of rescue, but as a reminder of how far he had come. He realized that miracles often look ordinary when they arrive. They look like consistency. They look like effort. They look like someone choosing not to quit. Years later, people in his town began to speak of Elias differently. They said he was dependable. They said he was doing well. They asked him how he changed his life. He never gave speeches. He never claimed wisdom. He simply told them the truth. He said, "I stopped waiting for my life to begin." He said, "I learned that destiny listens to action more than it listens to wishes." Some understood. Some smiled politely and kept waiting. But Elias knew the difference now. On a quiet evening, standing outside under the same gray sky he once stared at from the ground, Elias felt something settle inside him. Not victory, not pride, but peace. He thought about how young he had been when he believed miracles would arrive without effort. He felt compassion for that version of himself. He understood now that life is a folk tale written by hands willing to move, step by step, through fear and uncertainty. He understood that destiny is not a door that opens when you knock once, but a path that appears when you keep walking. If you are listening to this story and you feel stuck, if you feel like life owes you something it has not delivered yet, remember Elias Murrow. Remember the radio that went silent. Remember the woman on the ice. Remember that waiting can feel safe, but it can quietly steal your years. The miracle you want may not come as a gift. It may come disguised as effort, discipline, and courage. You do not need to be ready. You only need to begin. Your actions are speaking every day. The question is, what story are they telling?